Laurel, a memoir by Laurella Luce Healy, edited by Bonita Healy, illustrated by Gabriella Lee. For Mama and Mother, both now gone. Part 4. Germania. It was the fall of 1922 when I heard the news. We were going to move to a tiny town called Germania. There was a 2-room schoolhouse. I could go to school. We moved into a big house with room after room and many fireplaces. When we finished exploring the house, we explored the barns. A cow barn, a hay barn, a horse barn, a machine shed, and a carriage barn. The carriage barn had many carriages and buggies in it that were no longer in use. One carriage had glass windows and headlights and fringe on the top. What fun we had! Life seemed easier. A tight cord still existed among us all, the kids. Papa was neutral, and she was not one of us. We would never tattletale on each other, and we always stuck up for each other. It had been 2 years since Papa had married her. One afternoon she sent Maybelle and me down to the basement to get a pan of potatoes for supper. While we were down there, I asked Maybelle if she thought it would be all right if we called her Mother. Maybelle agreed. "Here are the potatoes, Mother," we said when we went upstairs. She quickly turned around and said, "What did you say?" "Here are the potatoes, Mother," we said again. She hugged and kissed us and said she had waited so long to be called Mother. What a wise lady she was. She didn't ask or tell us to call her Mother. She wanted it to come from our hearts, and it did. About that time, we stopped calling our father Papa. From then on, he was Dad. In later years, we called her Mom. I started school. I loved it. The teacher would say, "Will the first grade reading class please come up?" I would get up real proud and walk up to her desk. She would push her chair back and put me on her lap. That's where I started to read. Everyone spoke only English in our Germania schoolrooms. During recess, everyone spoke German, which we Luce children had to learn. Anyone who ever heard my dad sing Danny Boy in his Irish tenor knew we were not Jews. We went to the Lutheran church, where they asked my sister and me to sing with the children for the Christmas service. I learned Silent Night in German before I learned it in English, and that year the Mama doll I had saved my stolen pennies for was my Christmas gift. Mother didn't think we were learning enough of the Bible going to the German church, so Sundays she would take my sister, Sandy, and me to the Poppy Hollows. The Poppy Hollows were 3 hills that stood like a triangle. At their base was a pond. We slid downhill there in the winter. The hills were only about as high as a 3-story house. To get back to my story, Mother would take her Bible and read or tell us Bible stories. She taught us some verses, and we learned the Lord's Prayer. In front of the school was a fenced area. Big willow trees grew there. I think it was out of bounds for us. Anyway, one recess we climbed the fence and had fun climbing the big old trees. The older kids swung to the ground and ran to school when the bell rang. I couldn't do it and tried to climb down. I fell, and one of the branches on the ground pierced my knee. I ran in the school and didn't know what to do. When the teacher was busy, I took a piece of tablet paper, pulled down my black stocking, and put the paper over my bloody knee. I was glad to get home and have Mother wash and dress it. I still have the scar. A classmate, Erna, and I were walking down the lane from school toting our lunch pails. She pulled 2 uneaten sandwiches from her pail and offered me one in her halting English. The sandwiches were of thick, dark bread with an unidentifiable filling. "What kind of sandwich is it?" I asked, accepting it. "Lard," answered the older girl. Lard, I gasped. We don't eat lard. Then, with all the might in my 7-year-old arm, I threw Erna's gift to Mrs. Teskey's turkeys. Ancient Mrs. Teskey lived alone in a shack by the school lane. How she survived I do not know. Perhaps she ate lard sandwiches. One day I had teachers' and mother's permission to take my little brother to visit school. He was very good. At recess, I didn't take him to the little house out back. I didn't realize he might have to go. Back in school, he couldn't hold it any longer. I looked down on the floor, and there was a stream of water running down one of the warped floorboards. The boy across the aisle had made a small paper boat, and that little boat was going right down the stream. One April morning, Dad walked me to school. He was on his way to catch a train to Oshkosh. I wished I could go. Grandpa had died, and I felt so badly. I thought about him sitting all the time by the window, smoking his pipe. When Dad came home, he was carrying a big bag. He had been to the red cottage on the lake where we used to live and had dug up Percy's clothes. Mother washed them, and they looked like new. Pigweed was a threat to the corn crop. Mother, Maybelle, Sandy, and I would go into the field to pull it. One day, Sandy stepped on a sandburr and cried. We sat him down to pull out the burrs, and he had burrs in his pants. Finally, Mother had to hold him in the air so we could deburr him. Mother had to make a trip to the next town one day to do some banking. Dad couldn't go, so Mother decided she would take me. Ken hitched up old Hell, a lively old horse, to an open buggy. We enjoyed the warm, sunny day. After Mother did her business, she took me into the drugstore with a white tiled floor. I had never been in such a clean, nice store. Mother bought me an ice cream cone, but none for herself. She said she didn't like ice cream. I offered her a taste of mine, but she said no. It was such a treat. I don't think she had another nickel. Life had been so happy in quiet Germania, but now we were going to move. End of part 4.